girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And also follow us up on our social medias. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook. We're on TikTok. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's a whole nother story. But hit us up on all those socials so we can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. We are jumping across overseas, man, to Sweden, talking to Pierre of the band Helltrain. What's going on, man?
Hi, man. Yeah, all good here. A bit apart from the cold. Yeah, we have winter here. We're in the north of Sweden, so it's cold in winter and snow. But apart from that, we're all good.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the same. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and we got the cold and the snow and everything up here too. So I'm dealing with it as well, man. Just came in from that, so not fun.
Yeah,
but yeah, once we get through it, man, it's. I'm sure your summers are a lot better over there, right?
Yeah, and in the far north where I live, we actually have the most hours of sun in whole Sweden. It sounds crazy, but it's like that. Yeah, sometimes in the summer we have days without, the sun is 24 hours around the clock. So it's a bit crazy here. And the winters are cold, dark, and depressing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like it's always depressing here in Cleveland, but so I would still trade for that little bit of the sunlight over there. But anyway, usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
At some point, when we were kids, me and my brother, we had this game. It was a board game where you were supposed to make money and be a gangster. So at some point, I guess I had a small wish of being some Al Capone guy when I was like 5 or 6. But, it changed. And, we started playing rock music. And I guess at some point we wanted to become rock stars. But, where we live in the far north, it's such a hassle just to get to our capital, Stockholm, and play some music. So I guess we decided to just we stayed here and we played our music and didn't give too much attention of that whole rock star thing. So but we're happy anyway.
Well, that's good. And that what I want to ask you too, then, like what age was it that you discovered music and started going down that path?
It was really early. My parents, and especially my father, although my mother also loves music, but my dad, he had an organ that he sort of, fumbled around with. And they always played, vinyl records and like they loved the Beatles and the Elvis and, all those 50s, 60s rock music was always present in my home when I was a little kid. So we got used to music early. I think I have some pictures of me sitting playing at the organ. I think I'm 5 or 6 years old. So music came early, and then I guess I was about 10 when I learned about Twisted Sister, Motley Crue, and all those bands. You know, Wasp and Twisted Sister was really huge in Sweden. Here in those days, we had just you had a one rock and roll magazine, and they like every month they wrote about those bands. So we came in touch with that early, you know, and started fooling around with guitars and stuff. I think I bought my first guitar when I was 12 or something. I started playing.
And then you said 12 you started playing.
Yeah.
What was there any kind of like now what town of what part of Sweden are you at again?
We're in the very far north, so it's 1,000 kilometers just to go to our capital, Stockholm. So we grew up in a very isolated place. You know, our town is like 60,000-70,000 people, and
what's the
there
name
were
of
no
it?
Luleå. So it's in the really far north, and we have like 4 hours by car to the Russian border from here. So that gets you an idea of how far away we are.
Gotcha.
And
what was like? Was there any kind of like a music scene up there?
No, there was nothing. No concerts stopped here. No bands came through on tour. I think Helix was the first metal band ever to come here, and that was a long time ago. And my parents didn't let me go there because I was too small. And there were no record stores came later on in the 90s. When we were kids, there were almost nothing. You couldn't. You had to look in the magazines, on the back page of the magazines, to see, okay, this record looks cool. I can't listen to it, but it looks cool. So you order it for your all the money you possibly could have, and hope that it would return not being bad. So when we talk about Wasp, all kids around here, we talked about Wasp, and everybody was like, yeah, they're really cool, but no one had heard them. We just seen the pictures in the magazines. And when I got the first album on tape, I was so nervous to put it in the cassette deck, because what if it sucked, and out came I Want to Be Somebody. Could you imagine that, being 10 years old and hearing I Want to Be Somebody for the first time? That was I will never forget that day.
Yeah. So I mean, you started getting into playing, and it was basically just for your own pleasure at home then, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, we started learning, and then I had a friend here who in 6th grade, he went down a bit south, 300 kilometers south, to a city called Umeå, and there he started hanging out with some guys. The Swedish hardcore scene birthed there, like with bands like Refused, and I don't know if you know them, but and other bands. So he came in touch with that early hardcore punk rock scene, and they also had record stores there. So he sent me tapes. He sent me a tape with stuff like early Metallica stuff and Halloween and stuff, and he also started playing guitar. So on that path, I started playing more aggressive and harder stuff, trying to learn the early Metallica songs, and yeah.
Nice. So then you had your own little in with getting music, and had actually an idea, somebody whose ear you trusted before he sent it to you, that they wouldn't suck.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and those things were like, wow, this is so heavy, and and from that on, it just went further. I mean, first time I got in touch with even harder stuff, that was like Sepultura. I think it was Beneath the Remains, and it was one of the first Napalm Death albums. And at first we just listened to that stuff just to laugh at it, because before it was just crazy. It was so aggressive and so crazy. But after listening a few times, the ears got used to it, and we're like finding the grooves and their rhythms, and like, okay, and this is not so bad. So from there on, it just went on, with 90s black metal, the Swedish and Norwegian black metal scene. We were heavily involved in that stuff. And yeah, we started setting up shows on our own, because no one was booking shows. So we booked them ourselves. We brought bands like At the Gates and Therion, and they came up here and to play with us, basically.
So then what was I mean, you put together like a little venue up there in your town, or what?
Yeah, we could borrow some venues from here, and one place for one weekend and one place for another weekend. There were a lot of, youth shows arranged at schools and stuff, but that was like the local bands all the time, just running around in the same bands played every second, every third week or so. But we managed to pull together some bigger shows where we could actually get bands from Stockholm and Gothenburg, and we also started getting involved in the tape trading and underground scene. So there was a lot of we could do some exchange gigs, and we went down south to play with some other underground bands at the time. So after a few years, we actually managed to get out and play a little, but touring was never really an option for a band from coming from this far away.
And when did Helltrain come together?
It was in 2004, a period prior to Helltrain. Me and the original Helltrain drummer Oscar, he sadly passed away about 8 years ago. We had a band called Shaitan, which played we started out as a black metal band and evolved into some more gothic stuff. And I recently woke up that band again, so I recorded a Shaitan album last year actually, but that's more like gothic rock now. And when we were thinking about doing a new Shaitan album back in, I think it was 2002, 2003 sometime, the songs were not they didn't sound really like we wanted them. We hadn't gone further, more into like a mixture of punk and rock and roll. And so we decided that, okay, we need a new name for this. We always started up new musical projects because we were bored, and the only thing you could do up here basically when we were young was either you could go into sports, play hockey, football, or you would do music. That was the thing, and we just did music. That was it, and we asked my brother to join us, and then we started Helltrain in 2004, I think.
And then what was I'm always curious about why names come to be. What was the inspiration for Helltrain?
I think, to be honest, it was the least bad name of all the names we could come up with. I think most of the names were really bad, but we thought, okay, that one is okay. I think it was my little brother who came up with it, and we said, okay, let's go with it. We weren't happy at the time, but with time, I think it has turned out to be, it's okay. Oh
yeah. Now, what was it like? Playing, putting something like this together with your brother.
We had always played together, even since I can't even remember when we first started out. I think he was 12 or 13 and I was 15, 16 when we started up our first bands, and then we just played together always, and we always got along very good. We grew up together. We even lived together for 3-4 years in the same apartment when our parents moved away, and so it wasn't really trying out with him. We had already played for so many years before we started Helltrain. So
I mean, you didn't have much options back in the day, right? So,
no, really. I mean, that was also one thing, when you Google the northern metal scene of those days, everyone is in every band. It's like people just, cross-matching here and there, It was basically 2 or 3 drummers available and 5 or 6 guitar players and 2 or 3 vocalists, and that was it, So,
and then I wanted to ask, so we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the debut album, Route 666. What was the inspiration writing that album and the title track?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a road in the US called Route 66, so we just added a 6 to it, to fit more into the concept of the devil, I guess. And we just wanted to make a punk rock and roll. We grew up on that stuff, when we were kids. up here in the far north, it was different from, in other places, the heavy metal guys and the punk people, they didn't really get along. But up here, everyone who was into some kind of, misfit thing, just stuck together. We always hang out with the hardcore, the punk rockers, and the death metal and black metal people. Everybody, got along very good together, and we grew up on that stuff. At the same time as we listened to Metallica and Napalm Death and stuff, we listened to the Misfits and Ramones and all that classic punk stuff. So Helltrain became sort of a total mix of everything. That and on top of it, with some rock and roll from the background of having grown up with Chuck Berry, Elvis, and the Beatles, and and when we started and started writing on the album, we also brought in the Hammond organ, which can be heard on some of the songs, and that one really came from old school rock and roll stuff, and we wanted to just put all that stuff together and into some heavy aggressive music. And I think looking back to it, I think it turned out fairly okay. I mean, as of today, I would, of course, have wanted to remix the album if I could, but we can't. So we have to stick with the version that is. But, in 2025, it's we obviously have more resources than in 2004. So.
Yeah, now you would mix that with Daniel Bergstrand.
Yeah.
Studio Dugout, and he's worked with like In Flames, Meshuggah, Behemoth, just to name a few. What was it? Yeah. How was because you said you were pretty isolated up there. How was it getting connected and able to get into there to get that mixed?
There was a natural connection, actually, because Oscar, our drummer, he moved up to Luleå from Uppsala. Uppsala is a close town to our capital, Stockholm. So it's like a 40-minute drive. And Oscar grew up in Uppsala, and Daniel is also from Uppsala. And they, of course, bounce into each other from time to time. And Oscar also played drums with other bands, like a Swedish hardcore band that is named Raised Fist, good friends of ours. And he had also recorded with Daniel prior to this. So we did a mix here in Luleå, and but that actually was supposed to be the album mix, but early in the process, Jimmy Franks from Bloodhound Gang, the Bloodhound Gang vocalist, Jimmy, and got involved because he called me one day. This is going to be a quite long story. Hope we have time for it. But he called me.
I was
one
going to
day.
ask you about his involvement too, like how that came together.
Yeah, so everything is connected. I was at home with my son because my wife was about to give birth to a second child, but she was bedridden because there was complications with her pregnancy. So I was at home with my son, taking care of him because he was just 2 or 3 years old at the time, and while my wife was, relaxing and taking care of herself. And so one day phone called, and there was this guy. Hi, I'm Jimmy. He was so over the top, enthusiastic. Yeah, come on. I play in a band called Bloodhound Gang and blah, blah, blah. And he's talked a lot. And, I was in the middle of a playing session here, and I was like, yeah, great. Talk to our label, please. Yeah. And I hung up, It was quite a short phone call, But back in my head, I started, spinning, and I recognize this thing, Bloodhound Gang. I was a metal guy at that point. So there's something wrong with this, So when my son went to bed, and I sat by the computer and like Bloodhound Gang, and I was like, oh, it was that guy. So that was a bit crazy. And anyway, Jimmy had found our demo on Myspace, which he liked a lot, but we had already signed with Nuclear Blast. So he wanted to do a license for the US market then for the album. And here it comes, here's how this whole thing with the mix comes together because we sent Jimmy the mix, and he thought it was not good enough. The mix we had done here in our hometown. And so, okay. we said, and he said he would pay for a new mix. And so we said, okay. And we checked with Daniel. So Daniel said, okay, I can do it. So that's how Daniel got involved, through Oscar and through Jimmy's sort of demands for a better sound.
Nice. So, yeah. So then I want, ask about like putting that album together, like, some of the songs that, like what were some of your inspirations for, like, I really liked Afterglow. What was the message in that song?
Oh, it's such a long song. I don't really, many times when I write songs, many times at least at that point in time, I didn't really focus on, I focused more on getting rhymes and rhythms and things together to sort of glue together lyrically than, putting a certain message out. I always listen to other stuff like hip hop, and in hip hop music, they work a lot with, rhythm, like vocals is a rhythm. That was one of the inspirations I was trying to get into Helltrain, like to use the vocals as a rhythmic instrument, and where you can play around with rhymes and how you do phrases, and to use it like more like a rhythmic instrument and just scream it out. So I guess that was the main point of when I was working through the albums, and also try to make the lyrics a bit, I didn't want them to be, too, what's the right word for it? Serious, I guess.
Gotcha.
It didn't have to be dead serious.
Yeah. You're just having fun. Right?
Yeah. More of like, have fun, make something that is, people can have a few beers too. And, that was the thing with Helltrain, was to make a really punk ass rock and roll band, that could just get the rhythm into your body and just go along with it.
And it's obviously it worked, because, on MySpace, it caught Jimmy's ear from the Bloodhound Gang, and he, got involved and helped with the mix and the US distribution. But then I see it also like caught the ears of Bam Margera, and got on his MTV show, the Viva La Bam and stuff. And you guys were part of that collaboration with Viva La Bams. How did that come together for you guys?
I guess that was a thing that Jimmy and his crew helped out with to get the sort of promotion going. And at some point we even got involved, and it was like a 4-track CD that MTV released that was with Helltrain. It was him, Rammstein, and Bloodhound Gang. So it's just a crazy thing to be part of. I think what has bothered me most, as looking in the background, looking back at all this, I think the timing was extremely bad. We on a personal level, I was building a family that I would not, leave home alone just to go on some crazy tourings, adventures, just to satisfy my own ego, and business wise, this was at the peak, sort of when the internet destroyed music business for a while. It's slowly getting back to something, but so basically people stopped buying albums, and they also stopped. Then there were no streaming services available, and there were just like downloads and Napster and stuff. So everything sort of crash landed, and it really turned ugly into our second album, which we did only on with Jimmy. Really, Nuclear Blast released us from the contract, and we got hooked up with Jimmy for the second album. And that was in 2008, and that's when it, really, really turned bad. The whole market and everything just went in a spiral downward from there on. So timing was really bad.
Yeah, so despite getting, like an opportunity for your name to get out to places it probably never would have, with that opportunity, it was just like, it would have been too much of a loss for you to even went out and supported that and promoted that and everything, because, I mean, like you said, you had a family at home, and then if you would have signed any kind of contract, it's like you owe them, you'd have been in debt, with a new family.
Yeah, I mean, and Jimmy was prepared to put up some tour support, but it wasn't even close to 4 or 5 guys to survive, and we would all have gotten back home with piles of bills to pay, and probably not much of an income from it, because the timing, as I said, was bad. The business side of things wasn't there, but we got tremendous support from Jimmy during all these years. I mean, he paid big money for recordings, and I don't think as of today he hasn't recouped it. So but I guess he sold a few Bloodhound Gang albums, so I guess he's happy anyway. But so it was a lot of things that didn't match up at all. But all in all, good experience. And I've always said this from the very first day I started, doing interviews with people and having people asking about music. I had a hobby, a great musical hobby for 35, 40 years of my life. I recorded, over 10 albums. Haven't paid a dime for recording them, and I'm far away from being a millionaire in terms of money by music, but it has given me so much, both experience wise and soul wise, and I really don't need to ask for more.
Yeah. Now, are you still in touch with Jimmy?
Yeah, from time to time. I usually email with some. He had a label guy at the time that I still go back and forth with, and they were supported and bought a few copies of the new re-release, so to say. And so he helps out when he has the opportunity. He posted some stuff on Twitter, and so
Now, I mean, obviously, though, regardless, if you're doing a 20th anniversary celebration, there's still, a lot of fans and people that enjoyed Route 666 and connected with that album. So did you think that when you were in there originally recording it, even with the support of Jimmy, did you think that, 20 years later, you'd be re-releasing and celebrating it?
No, I don't think so. That ever crossed my mind. At the time we were just happy to do an album. And at the time, vinyl had completely vanished. So just getting it on vinyl is the thing. I think it has been re-released through the years, but only on CD. I think there was a Polish version and some other versions, and it was released in the Baltic states as well. But to get it on vinyl, I think to me that is when you release a record. I'm an old record collector, so vinyl is the thing for me.
Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, I enjoy old vinyls too. It's like, the day of streaming, I mean, it pays off, I guess, when you're at the gym, you could throw something on and headphones or whatever, and we could carry it with us. But I'm still old school, sitting down in front of the album with the headphones on and letting it tell you a story from beginning to end, Yeah. Just going on that journey.
Yeah, and that was the thing I actually realized when I released the Shaitan album last year, because that one was also done on vinyl. But, and at the time I had sort of gotten used to releasing singles. I didn't think people would care for an album anymore, but the audience proved me wrong. you know,
Nice.
and I could see that. So that was a great experience, you know. And yes, you know, going back to being a little kid, listening to heavy metal and doing an album on vinyl one day as a grown-up was sort of a dream that has come true.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some kids still out there that might not have it. I mean, I know we live in a new age, but there are still, you know, small, like, you know, areas that don't have like the technological advances we have today. And there's still some kids probably looking at, you know, ordering through tape trading a Helltrain and hoping it doesn't suck when they get it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, both the US and Sweden, we have sort of, you know, a well-built infrastructure. We have phone networks everywhere. We have working internet on our jobs, and we have everything. But there are a lot of countries in the world that, you know, doesn't have it like we have it, and they still, you know, use vinyls and tapes and CDs and stuff. So that is something to have in mind, I think.
And what's it been like working with Discouraged Records? I like the name of it.
Yeah, it's a cool small little label, and they're actually from that town I told you about, 300 kilometers south from Luleå, to which my friend, you know, the Metallica friend, moved to. So it's a town quite close by, you know. They have that record label has actually been there for a lot of years, but we've never bumped into each other until Christopher reached out and asked, you know, about the album and the possibility to do the re-release. So yeah, it's a small, and they must have done, you know, I guess more of the punk and hardcore style stuff, but apparently found some joy in our music. So yeah, it turned out to be really good.
And what's you know, what's the plans now? I mean, going forward, what do you guys got? I mean, you're talking about your other project and working on that, but anything in the future for Helltrain?
We did a comeback show after Oscar passed away, so we got a new drummer and played a show in our hometown and have done some singles after that. But you know, it has been you know, a bit difficult to, you know, get going full speed ahead again. And I think it's Oscar's death certainly has something to do with it. I think we lost something there. And we found a great drummer in a guy named Fredrik Anderson. He's equally as good as Oscar, you know, technically, and he's a great guy, and he was the one playing the show with us. But you know, it's also up to me and my brother to, you know, write songs and push it, and we haven't really, you know, I don't know. I found the inspiration for doing some other kinds of music, and I felt that I like to prioritize that, you know, aside of instead of, you know, pushing for some more Helltrain songs. We will do more stuff, that's for sure. But I wouldn't promise, you know, a 10 song album in a year or so. You know, I guess we will work on it on a song by song basis as for now, you know.
And what's I mean, for the fans now that are you know, some of the new ones that are just getting hip to Helltrain and they want to pick up the 20th anniversary vinyl and stuff, where are they able to get that from?
Go check the Discouraged Records website. I guess that's my best tip. I don't think it will be a tremendous, you know, distribution thing or so. It's still, you know, underground music, so you won't find it at Walmart or the places you have in the US. So I don't know about the US distributor if Discouraged has one, but we'll have to investigate on that actually.
And what is like what's if fans want to like kind of just like follow what's going on? You guys got any social medias and stuff out there you want to send them to?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. That's about it. You know, I was thinking when you listed all the stuff, you know, in the beginning of this, when you presented the show, and you know, it's TikTok and it's what's not and WhatsApp and whatever, you know, it's just crazy. And yeah, we have a Facebook page. That's it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy, you know, how it's become. You know, back in the day, you know, you could buy a magazine.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're our own publicists almost, you know. And, I mean, it's good and it's bad. It's like you can kind of control your own destiny, but at the same time, it's just like, man, I'm like you, man. I got a family, I got kids, man. I'm old school, man. I don't got time to be sitting here, you know, making all these little like posts and tweets and follow me and stuff, you know. But it's the way of the industry. If I want to stay connected and get connected with guys like you to have these conversations, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, you know. One channel or two is fine, but you know, you listed like 10, 15, you know, and it's just getting worse. You know, it's just getting more and more and more, and some channels die, and then there's a new one born tomorrow. So, you know, it's just, you know, it's impossible to find the time to do it all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some apps that I've learned that, you know, if I just like the one I'm using now to talk with you, StreamYard. Yeah, you know, I can distribute this to a lot of those video streaming ones. It'll just automatically go to all those, you know, which is good. But yeah, man, it's just I miss the good old days, man. But it is what it is, man. I used to book shows here locally in Cleveland and run up to Kinko's and take the band logos and make flyers and put the flyers out on the polls to promote the shows and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah, people nowadays don't realize how much trouble you had to get into to, you know, get the new demo or an album from a band. You know, back in the days, you know, you had to write somebody and send a list of this is my stuff, and he sent the list back and this is my stuff, and then you wrote another letter and sent, put this and this and that one on this tape and record it and send it back to me, and I'll send you a tape with the stuff I record for you. You know, it could take 3 months to get, you know, and today it takes 3 seconds. So, you know, it's, I mean, back in the days when I was heavily into the underground, I could get like 10, 15 letters every day from people all over the world. You know, you got cassettes and fanzines and stuff, and people just, you know, that was like the golden age for me.
Oh yeah, kids today don't realize how good they got it, and they lose some of that hustle too. You know. But man, Pierre, you're definitely taking me back, dude. It's good. Been good talking with you. I want to ask you a couple of the questions I normally ask my guests before we get ready and wrap up. So, you talked a lot about, you know, some of your influences as a kid, but who would you say are your top 3 musical artists that you're listening to today?
I'm listening to a lot of music, so it's I listen to a lot of music all the time, so it's a bit difficult, but you know, a Ghost is a band I've spent a lot of time with. Lately, the last years or so. I think has to do with him being such an excellent songwriter, together with his team, of course, because it's not just Tobias who writes all the songs, but, you know, I learned a lot from it. Not only, you know, enjoyed the music, but I also listened to a lot of, you know, I try to listen to good songwriters, you know, to learn. You know, that's one thing. So Ghost is definitely there, and then I listen to a lot of, you know, I listen to a Swedish band called Kite, which is more electronic music, but I enjoy them very, very much. You know, they have a great deal of, you know, emotion and excellent songwriting in their stuff. So yeah, and and then of course I listen to a lot of, you know, metal music from time to time, and I think a Greek band called Yotheria, which features the original bass player of Rotting Christ. They have made an astonishing new album, which I listened to a lot, So, but I listen to, it could be 50 bands in a week. So naming three is it's really hard.
Yeah, it's usually tough narrowing it down, But and then who are three people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
I would say my father, my mother, and my wife.
Nice. And then going back to before you picked up your first guitar and you were a little kid, what was your favorite toy as a child?
I think it was a Jello dumper truck.
Nice.
That's the thing that comes first to mind.
Nice. And then anything that you've been able to share with your kids as they've been growing up?
Yeah, I mean, we played a lot with trucks. we tried with our son, as trying to be good parents. We bought him a sort of this wagon with a little plastic doll, and trying to make him, not only give him boy stuff, but it took him about 10 seconds to throw away the doll, and that trolley, became a lawnmower instead. So
Gotcha. And then, are there any causes or organizations that you support and encourage others to check out?
Well, there's a lot of stuff like that going on all the time. But I think one thing that we have had, we have one thing here in the far north of Sweden that is local. And I think that is, something that is, they're called Wild Kids or Vilda Kids in Swedish. And I try to, send them a few bucks here and there. Just, they take care of kids that don't have too much fun at home, coming from, poor situations or bad parenting and stuff. And it's local, and I think that is one thing that I like and should be done more in the world. I agree. Local stuff. And so it's often, it has to be nationwide, and, it's, putting money into research nationwide or putting money into something else, but it's nationwide and you don't really have this local engagement to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and half the time you don't know where that money's really going. It's
exactly
usually paying the executives that are running it, where locally, everything starts at home, If we want a better nation, we want a better world, it starts at home with us and our kids, and locally. So get involved locally and make some changes, man, and that stuff spreads. So
and it's the same with local sports clubs. They do great work. A lot of kids who don't have anywhere to go or anything to do, but the sports clubs can pick them up and put them into football or hockey or tennis or horse riding or whatever. That to support that stuff like that is really, really important, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Pierre, man, I really appreciate your time, man. It was good talking with you, and encourage everybody to kind of, definitely pick up the vinyl if they can figure out where to order it, especially here in the States. But or at least just check it out, stream it, man, because I enjoyed listening to it myself. So
thanks.
And I wish you guys the best of luck, man.
Same to you, and thanks a lot for the support and for taking your time to do this interview. I know, you're like me, we work with other stuff, so it's just total support of music. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. All right, you take care, man. Great talking with you.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye.